Hello and welcome back to the channel for another video. In today's video, I'm just going to make it a quick video where I share some of the information that I shared with parents at my school this week in some parent meetings that took place around the SATs, okay, and really giving the information that the parents would need. What are the SATs? So SATs is a term people use to refer to the end of Key Stage 2 assessments. End of Key Stage 2 is in year 6, so the end of primary school. The children go through a series of tests, assessments, and these are for reading, grammar, and mathematics. There is no writing test, okay, that's assessed slightly different. And the purpose of these tests is to pass on to high schools information around the child's academic ability in those subjects, and also for the schools to get an idea of how that child has performed from when they started at school to when they left at the end of year 6, and the knowledge that they've picked up during that time. Writing is not assessed during these tests. It's actually assessed throughout the year, and the children should have done a series of independent writing pieces with their teacher, and then the teacher will assess those pieces and give the child a grade at the end of the year for writing. Okay, so the tests this year will be between Tuesday the 9th of May and Friday the 12th of May, which is different to normal. So the original dates for this year are on the screen now, but I don't want you to pay any attention to them because they are wrong. The government put these dates out originally for the SATs, but then had to change them because of an unexpected event, which is the King's coronation, which will be taking place in the same week as the SATs. So I'm not sure if they knew about this when they were arranging it, but obviously the King's coronation takes precedent. And the Monday, which would have been the first day of SATs, is now a bank holiday, Monday the 8th of May. So we couldn't have SATs on that day, which means the government published a new timetable for SATs, and these are the dates that you want to make a note of. So no test on Monday the 8th because it is a bank holiday, so SATs will begin on Tuesday the 9th of May. The first test on Tuesday the 9th is the English, grammar, punctuation and spelling papers. Grammar paper is the paper 1 and the spelling paper is paper 2. Wednesday the 10th of May will be the English reading paper. Thursday the 11th of May will be mathematics papers 1 and 2, 1 being the arithmetic paper. And Friday the 12th of May will be the final maths paper, paper 3. So how are they carried out? Well, they take place during normal school hours, and they're done under exam conditions. So the desks will be separated. Children will be asked to sit at the opposite ends of desk so they can't see each other's papers. And from the moment they're given their paper to the moment that it's collected, children are not allowed to talk during this assessment. After the assessment, the papers will be collected in and sent away to be marked externally. So during the year, the teachers will be doing mocks with the children, which have been marked in school by the teachers, but these tests are sent away to be marked externally. So the teachers really don't know how the children have done until those tests come back to the school. And the tests come back to the school and the results will be ready for parents around July. So if you do want to know how your child has got on during those assessments, you won't actually be able to find out until at some point in July when the school will be letting parents know about those results, usually in the end of school report. Okay, so the timings of the tests differ, but the longest one is no more than 60 minutes. On Tuesday then, we have the grammar, punctuation, spelling papers. Paper 1 is a 45-minute paper, and paper 2 is a spelling test which lasts around 15 minutes. There's no timing for that paper, but it doesn't usually take more than 15-20 minutes to complete because there are 20 spellings for the children to write. Reading paper is the longest, and that is the only one that is 60 minutes. Then the arithmetic paper is 30 minutes, and maths paper 2 and 3 are both 40 minutes each. Sometimes children who have a particular learning need, who find certain parts of the school curriculum difficult, could be given specific arrangements for the SAT. So this could be extra time. It could be that the tests are opened early so they can see them beforehand. Sometimes if a child has a difficulty with reading, particularly for the maths tests, an adult can read for them, but not for the reading test. An adult can scribe for a child, which means write for them if they have a handwriting difficulty. So if handwriting is a problem for that child, They can tell the adult what the answer is, and the adult can just write exactly what the child has said. And occasionally you have spoken translations for the maths papers for children who have English an additional language, and their English is they find it difficult, but they have no problem with the maths things that have been asked. So sometimes they are allowed rest. Well, they're allowed rest breaks during the test, but this is at the discretion of the teacher. And if the test is stopped for any reason, everybody has to stop, and then the teacher has to stop the time and start it again afterwards. And this could be for things like if a child really needs to use the bathroom, but they can have a rest break. Children who are ill during the time of the SATs are injured, if they hurt themselves, specific arrangements can be made for those children as well. For example, if a child does hurt their hand, their writing arm, they can have a scribe. So that has to be arranged by the school. So just speak to your school about that. And if your child is ill, if they're ill for a day, the school might say, oh, well, just come in the next day and complete the test that you missed. If they are, unwell but well enough to come in, they may just come in, do the test, and then go back home again. Or if they're ill for the whole week, tests can be sat up to 5 days after the official SATs week. So don't panic too much if your child is ill, but try to send them in to do the test on the week that is SATs. Okay, so the first paper, the grammar, punctuation and spelling tests, which will be on Tuesday the 10th of May. Paper 1 is the longer of the two, 45 minutes, and you can score a maximum of 50 marks on this paper. Children will be tested on their grammar, punctuation and spelling. Paper 2 is the shorter of the two, and it's only 15 minutes to 20 minutes long, and this is just a spelling paper only. So there'll be 20 questions. The teacher will read out the word and the children have to write it down. Examples of some questions from these papers then. So in the first paper, the children will be asked to do things like insert punctuation marks that are missing. For example, in question 1 here, tick the sentence that must end with a question mark. So they have a series of sentences and they have to tick the one that needs a question mark. So they have to read them and tick the correct answer. The question underneath question 6 here, there's a lot of questions about standard English. So standard English is really them being able to identify when something makes sense or is grammatically correct. So here in this instance, they have to choose, is it we was planning to hold a cake sale or we were planning to hold a cake sale? We is plural, so then the verb must be plural also. So in this case, it's we were planning to hold a cake sale. And in the second one, I were or I was. I is singular, so therefore it should be I was chosen to design the posters. Really, I mean, they just, if with these kinds of questions, reading them and seeing which one makes sense, it should stand out to them. A couple of different Another question from the grammar paper. So this one is, draw a line to match each word to its correct antonym. So the children would also need to be able to identify synonyms and antonyms of words. Antonyms that mean the opposite, for example. So you've got meandering, sympathetic, evade, and plausible. And which are the opposite meanings for those words? Okay, so you'd have to match them up. Sympathetic, the opposite of that is unfeeling. To evade something, the opposite of that is to confront it. Meandering is the opposite of that is straight. So plausible would be unbelievable in this case. A couple more questions from this paper. So here you can see one of them is asking to identify the relative clause within a sentence. 16 was asking them to name the punctuation mark that has been used between the two clauses. 14 is asking them to tick the option that shows the underlined words that I use in the sentence. So what kind of a phrase is where my father works? And 48 is a question asking them to insert a colon. So you can see from these questions that it's all about grammar, all about punctuation, okay, and then being able to apply that. I have another video on the channel which breaks down all the different questions in the grammar paper. It's called Year 6 SATs Grammar 2023. So have a look for that if you want more information on the grammar paper. So paper 2, which is done on the Tuesday, After that first grammar paper is the 15-minute spelling test. The children will get asked a series of spellings, 20 in total, and the teacher will read a word that they have to spell correctly. So in this case, Omar put the cutlery back in the, and then whatever word the teacher reads out, the children would have to spell. Okay, the reading test, which takes place on Wednesday the 10th of May. This is usually the one that is the most tricky of all the tests for most children. One, because of the length of time that it is and how much they have to do within that time. So they have to read 3 texts within that 60 minutes and answer questions on all 3. When we go through it with the children beforehand, we try to encourage them to spend no more than 20 minutes on each. So they're spacing their time out equally. A lot of the difficulty with this test is that children don't finish, and then that is reflected in their overall score. So this will be on Wednesday. Just a quick one about how the marks are distributed. Historically, the questions that come up, most of the marks are for 3 different types of questions. You can call these content domains or reading skills. The children would have been taught to answer these types of questions. So according to the historically old papers, around 20% of marks could be gained from answering word meaning questions, which is where children have to identify words that mean different things. Over a quarter of the marks could be gained from simple retrieval questions, which I'll show you in a minute. And almost half of the marks were allocated to inference style questions. Okay, so what do they look like? Well, retrieval questions, so around a quarter of the marks for questions such as these are the easier of the questions. So who knocked on the door? The children would have to identify in the text who that was and write the answer down. Where was it being held? Again, just go back to the text and write down the answer. So they're fairly straightforward. The word meaning questions, this is what they look like. I always say to the children, if it says find and copy, that should be saying to you in your head, oh, this is a word meaning style question. So in this first one here, these are taken from the 2022 paper, last year's paper. It says that Yuri was not very careful when he put Veronica's bag down. Now in the text, Yuri dumped the bag on the floor, which shows that he didn't put it down very carefully. So therefore dumped would be the answer. And question 8, find and copy 2 other words from this paragraph which means the same as quick. My heart began beating fast. So they need to find 2 other words, 2 other synonyms that mean quick. And in the text there was dashed and there was darted. Now some of the children wrote down the word fast, but that word was actually in the question, so it wouldn't have counted because the question clearly states find 2 other words. So yeah, just something to be aware of. And finally, the inference questions often can be 3 marks. So if children find these difficult, they're going to miss out on a lot of marks. This particular question, what impression do you get of Penelope as she describes her unusual experience? This was asking them to talk about Penelope's character. So write down 2 things they noticed about Penelope's character. Was she curious? Was she observant? Was she, inquisitive? And then to back that up with evidence from the text. So what was it in the text that tells them that she was a curious person? What was it in the text that told them that she was observant? To get 3 marks, usually they have to give 2 points and support at least 1 with evidence. A lot of the children that I've taught in the past with this kind of question would write down characters' feelings instead of character traits. They'd say Penelope was scared or frightened, but that's not a character trait, that's a feeling. So just something to be aware of. On to the maths then. So the first maths paper will be Thursday. It'll be the arithmetic paper, and it will be 30 minutes long and is worth a total of 40 marks. If the children do well on this paper, they stand a really good chance of passing overall. And the reason is because the pass mark can usually be, for all 3 papers combined, when they add them all up together, between 56 and 58. Now, if they score all 40 on this paper, it means they only actually need about 16 to 18 marks across the other 2. So that's only 9 marks on each of the other papers if they do well in this one. So it's a really good one for you to practice at home with your child. There's loads of practice papers online. Just type in Year 6 arithmetic. And this will cover the 4 operations, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. It'll cover lots of fractions questions, BIDMAS or BODMAS questions, percentages of amounts and decimals. We do have a walkthrough of last year's paper on the channel, so please check it out. The other two maths papers will happen on, one will happen on Thursday after the arithmetic paper, and the final maths paper will be on Friday. These are 40 minutes each, and they're worth 35 marks each. So that'll be the full marks is 35. These are slightly different to the arithmetic. They require the children to demonstrate their mathematical knowledge and skills, as well as their ability to solve problems and their mathematical reasoning. Some examples of this, because these papers cover a whole wide range of different things from measurement to fractions to shape to data handling, they can really get a variety of different questions. That's why it's important to try and do well on that first paper, because generally speaking, the reasoning papers are more difficult. 1 ton is 1,000 kilograms. A truck can carry 2.3 tons. So the children should have learned to convert, and that in 1 ton, there's 1,000 kilograms. So 2.3 times 1,000 will give them the answer. In a race, Ali completes a swim, a run, and bicycle ride. A tenth is the swim, 3/10 is the run. So then you add those two together to make 4/10. So the bicycle ride must have been 6/10. So you can see how they have to actually tease out the maths from these questions. This was an interesting one. This is a pictogram. Okay, this is from last year's paper. So on Monday, 24 DVDs were sold. So if you look at that, each picture of a DVD, they may not even know what a DVD is these days, but each picture is going to be worth, for Monday, you've got 3, and 24 was sold. So you do 24 divided by 3. So each DVD is 8, and then it's asking how many DVDs were sold on Friday. So on Friday, we see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 full DVDs. 6 times 8 is 48, plus half a DVD. If a full one is 8, half of one is 4. So that's 48 plus 4, giving them a final answer of 52. Another type of question that will come up a lot in the reasoning paper is something like this. It's a 2-step problem. There are 2 parts to it. They'll have to do 2 different things, and 2 marks are available. But what I also say to the children is, show your working. And it even gives them a prompt there on the paper, because if they show their working but get the answer wrong, they can still get a mark. So 1 box is 190. You get a second box half price. So somebody buys 2 boxes, that's 190 plus half of 190. How much must he pay altogether? So you're having to do 190 plus and half of 190. So that's the second step. And the final step is to add those parts together. Okay, and then you write the answer. This question, like I said before, you have shape questions on there. You have questions about angles. The children would need to know, for example, that within a triangle, the angles add up to 180 degrees. And this is from last year's paper. They had to identify the size of angle X and Y. Now, if the triangle adds up to 180 degrees and we take away 30, that leaves 150. And this is also an isosceles triangle. So they should know that 2 of the angles are going to be equal, X and then the adjacent angle on the other side. So if we take 30 away from 180, we are left with 150. If we divide that by 2, it gives us 75. So X is 75. On the other side, that angle there that's next to Y would be 75. And also the corner is 90. So if I take 75 away from 90, I will get Y. Now, on the channel, you'll find other videos that go through the maths, the reasoning questions in more detail. But I just wanted to share a couple of different style questions with you. So just to reiterate, these are the dates for the SATs this year, 2023. Tuesday the 9th is the first one. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay, that's just what you need to know, and make sure that your child is there for that week. They've had a good rest, and they've had a good breakfast in the morning, and the best of luck for them. And yeah, if you haven't subscribed to the channel before and you enjoyed this video, please subscribe for more videos on primary education, and give the video a like if you enjoyed this content. I'll see you in the next one, guys.